Hello everybody, welcome back. This week we are going to be looking at Greek mythology as part of our Ancient Greek unit. Now I'm going to start the session by showing you a puzzle, okay? And I'd really like you to join in with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the screen two pictures and I'm going to read out two sets of information, and what you need to do is try and match up the information with the picture. Okay, do you think you can do that? Now, it's a little bit tricky, this one, so you need to make sure you listen really, really carefully. All right, now I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Are you ready? So, one of these lives on Mount Olympus, whilst the other likes to run around fields barking at birds. One of these is a king, whilst the other gets treated like a king. One of these rules the garden, whilst the other rules the sky and air. The symbols for one of these is a lightning bolt, eagle, bull and oak tree, whilst for the other it's bouncy balls and biscuits. What I would like to know is, which Zeus is Zeus? Well, as I'm sure you've guessed, only one of these pictures actually shows an ancient Greek god, and that is this one here, the one on the right. So we have a picture of Zeus, king of the gods. And the other picture, as I'm sure you're wondering, is my furry friend, Zeus, who is king of the dogs. Bless him, the big fluff ball that he is. Okay, so we're going to look at ancient Greek mythology this week. I'm going to do a really quick overview and then introduce the tasks, because I just want you to get stuck in it this week. There is so much to explore and so much to watch and so much to listen to that I don't want to give it all away straight away. So, what is a myth? Well, myths are stories that were created by early civilizations to make sense of things happening in the natural world around them. So quite often, the ancient civilizations, so the Romans, the Greeks, they would have tales that would explain how we had seasons, or why day turns to night, or how the world began. So myths are sacred tales that are passed down through generations. Sometimes they vary depending on who tells them, but generally the overview and the outcome and the characters are the same. The characters in myths are usually gods or demigods or heroes. Now, a demigod is someone who is half god and half human, and they often feature mythical creatures, which we'll have a look at a few in a moment. So there were 12 main Greek gods and goddesses, and they were known as the gods of Olympus because they lived on Mount Olympus. Each of them had temples that were built for them, and the people of Greece would go and make sacrifices to them in those temples. So if you were looking at the Olympic video from last week, well, we knew that Zeus had his temple in Olympia, and they went and worshipped there for him, and they did the sacrifices to him halfway through the Olympics, didn't they? Now, each god had a different aspect of life that they controlled. So, for example, Poseidon was god of the sea and earthquakes, or Aphrodite, who was goddess of love and beauty. Now, one of the gods who isn't on there is Hades. Now, he was the god of death, and he chose to live in the underworld. Okay, now that is where the Greeks believed that once they passed over, once they died, they would go to the underworld. And because he ruled under there, he was the king of the underworld. Now, there were other gods and goddesses as well, but these were the 12 main ones. So I said before that Greek mythology often included a mythical creature. Now, some of these would be helpful, and some of these were horrible monsters that the hero of the story would have to fight against to prove their worth normally. So, for example, if you look at the bottom there, you've got Pegasus, which is a horse-like creature with wings. If you've ever seen the film Hercules, Pegasus was Hercules' companion. If you look on the other hand, though, we've got someone like Medusa with her serpent hair, or maybe the Minotaur as well. So these are horrible creatures that you would have seen, so horrible monsters you would have seen in the Greek myths. Now, as you read through the Greek myths, hopefully you'll start to recognise some of these, and you'll start to notice that there's a bit of a pattern with animals occurring. So not all of them, because you've got giants there and cyclops, but quite a lot of the Greek mythological creatures would have either had animal body parts or be made of an animal. Okay. So let's have a look at your task for this week. As I said, I'm just doing a really quick overview this week, so I want you to go and explore. So your first task is, of course, to research. Go and find out more about the ancient Greek myths and the gods that helped to inspire them. Now, if you go on the internet, obviously make sure you're being safe whilst you're searching. There are lots and lots of videos made for children, and BBC have like a radio channel that have all Greek myths for children as well. So you can go and watch and listen to these Greek myths in so many different places. You might have some of them written down at home. Maybe you've got them as a book. Also, listen out for videos that will appear throughout the week of your Year 5 teachers reading some Greek myths as well. So, for example, Mrs. Cole is going to be reading the story of Pandora. Now, once you've done all your research, then you can choose the tasks that you're doing. So your history task for this week, we'd like you to choose one or more, because you can do as many as you like, of the following activities. So first of all, write a review of a book linked to Greek mythology. So this might be, for example, Percy Jackson books. It might be The Beast of Olympus. Maybe you've got the Groovy Greeks Horrible Histories book, or maybe you've just got an information book all about the Greeks that you'd like to review. Your next activity is to write a short story or create a storyboard based on a Greek myth. So once you've listened to a few, maybe choose your favourite and recreate it, so rewrite it or draw it out. Then you could create your own monster or hero and explain what powers they have, maybe write a story about them. Or you can invent a new modern day myth, perhaps based on yourself and what adventures you get up to. So if you have a look at this picture over here, it says the story of Perseus and Medusa if they had smartphones. So if you could take one of the myths from ancient Greek times, make it more modern and up to date, which one would you choose? Would you be part of it? And how would you change it? Now you could write that, you could make it out of pictures, you could film it, so you might want to act it out. It could be a poem, it could be a fact file, it could be a storyboard, you might want to do some stop motion animation. Be as creative as you like. Remember, we're giving you creative control with these tasks. So do have a go and then just surprise us with what you get up to. Then your art task for this week is to create a version of your favourite Greek monster. So once you've researched and you've read some of these myths and maybe watched some videos, have a think about which is your favourite Greek monster and how can you recreate them. So maybe you might want to draw them, you might want to paint them, you might have some modelling clay or some Play-Doh you might want to use, maybe Lego, you might want to do it on the computer. Again, be creative, show us what you can do. Mrs. Underwood said as well that she particularly likes Medusa or the Cyclops, if you wanted to have a go at reproducing any of those ones. And then we've given you a computing task for this week, and that's to create a maze game. So just like we were doing before we broke up, using 2DIY 3D on Purple Mash, can you create a maze game based on the myth about Theseus and the Minotaur? Now that is one of my favourite Greek myths from when I was at school. Now don't panic if you don't have access to Purple Mash, because what you could do is you could create a maze board game for your family to play. So you might want to make it out of cardboard or maybe Lego, or again, you might have some Play-Doh or something and make it 3D. It might just be 2D on paper, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, so you've got two options there as well. Now remember, we're looking at Greek mythology this week. Last week we looked at the Olympics, but in a few weeks' time, we're going to think about, well, what was the greatest legacy that the Greeks left behind? So whilst you're researching and you're thinking about this week's task, still have that question in the back of your mind. What was their greatest legacy? Okay, which thing that they've left behind has had the biggest impact on us today? Now, remember, as always, any work that you do, you can share with us, because we do look forward to seeing your work and what you've been up to. You can share them via Twitter, or you can share them on the class email address. You might want to take pictures, or if you've typed something up, you can send the document over, whatever is easiest for you. But we would love to be able to share and celebrate them with you. Now, I know us teachers are really enjoying this Greek unit already, and I hope you are too. So it's your turn now. Go off, explore, read loads of myths, listen to loads of myths, go and watch Hercules if you can, the Disney film, because it is absolutely fab. If you're allowed to watch the Percy Jackson films, I also highly recommend those ones because they're all based on myths and will give you a bit more of an insight into what we're looking at this week. So enjoy year 5 and we look forward to seeing what you get up to.